It's going live. Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to this session in the Muslimah Writers Summit 2022. I pray that your day or your evening or your night going well and that you've been enjoying the other videos in this series. We are on day 4 and it's been an amazing ride meeting amazing people, some wonderful writers sharing their books, sharing their journeys, sharing their insights, and it's been a real honor and a privilege to be here for their stories, mashallah. So this session is a keynote by Tumkeen, and if you do not know who Tumkeen is, then Tumkeen is an award-winning author, poet, and speaker. She lives in the United States with her husband and 6 children. Tumkeen highlights her passion for faith, family, and nature through her deeply healing and personal writings. Her debut book was a bestseller. The name of the book is Breathe, Reflections and Poetry from the 2020 Lockdown, and it was released in 2021. It won the Daybreak Press Award for Poetry, amongst other literary awards, mashallah. And currently Tumkeen is writing a memoir about her journey through motherhood, mental health, and midlife. As Tumkeen likes to say, I am writing to heal and healing to write. And today, Tumkeen's talk will be the woman you become along the way. Tumkeen, assalamu alaikum, welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam, glad to be here. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm going to put that out there. If I kind of do this little thing I do with my hands, that means I'm a little nervous here. But that's the right part about this title, about the woman becoming along the way. Is harnessing all that energy and still pushing forward. So what I'd like everyone to do is to take a deep breath in with me. And let's just release all that morning talk in our head. Like it's morning here in Michigan. So I have a lot of things on my head and I just like to clear it out so I can focus. And I'd like you to focus on who you are as a woman. Now, Naima mentioned that I'm a writer and I'm a poet, author, alhamdulillah. But I also happen to be a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother. And alhamdulillah for all the roles that I play. But I am a person as well. And I have a story. I have a life that I've lived, experiences that I've went through, and they're unique to my own. A lot of us go through life facing challenges, and it becomes like, I'm the only one. I'm the only one facing this. I'm the only one who's suffering through this. But what we don't realize is that there's a story that's being written. And like any story, and most stories that we read, there's always a hero in that story. The hero doesn't know that they're a hero. What they're doing is they're simply going through life experiences and just wanting to get to the other side, wanting to attain something. Sometimes the hero is wanting to meet someone. Sometimes the hero is trying to get to a better place, a new place, to be a better version of themselves, to meet a better version of something else. The hero rarely knows that they are the hero. But what makes them the hero is that they keep pushing forward. They keep moving forward. And the beauty of this life is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us all heroes of our own stories. We are not realizing that amidst the fear, amidst all the things that happen to us, we have the courage to move forward. We have the power, the strength that we are born with to keep going. But we get stuck. We get stuck in our heads. We get stuck in our thoughts that I'm not good enough. I'm not bold enough. I'm not enough. Funny thing is, we were born to be enough. It's just that we're going through life in search of it. And perhaps even looking for it in people's eyes, into people's words, by someone telling us, validating us and saying to us that we are enough, that we are a hero. The woman you become along the way is recognizing that you are already her. So I'm going to share a little bit of like a story style here. My talk today is a little bit different than the ones I've done before. I haven't written it all out. It's not typed up in neat pages. I'm kind of going with the feel of my heart, because this title for me, The Woman You Become Along the Way, it was a heavy one. I've said it many times. I've heard it so many times from Naima, but it sat heavy with me. It sat heavy with me because it felt like a journey. And I can't tell you about a journey with looking from a paper. I have to feel through it. And so I'd like you to feel through it with me. I was 12 years old when I realized, perhaps even before, but 12 was my age that I could articulate that I wanted to be a writer, an author, a poet. I wanted it so bad. And I would say, I'm going to be a writer one day. I'm going to be an author one day. I'm going to be a poet. But that 12-year-old version of me was saying, when I grow up, what she didn't realize is that she was always a poet, because the words just flowed from her. Allah made it so. She was always a writer because she wrote wonderful stories, and they were funny and they were elaborate and they were poetic. She loved writing cards. That made her a writer. She loved drawing pictures that weren't the best, but had stories and words to it. And that showed how artistic she was. She went through life thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to be a writer and author. How many of us go through our lives thinking that we are going to be someone, not realizing that we are? Let's journey forward to 2019 in autumn, when one day I suddenly thought, I wonder how many niqabi writers are out there, how many niqabi authors are out there, women who are covered their face, wear hijab, Muslim women who are writing and making making the lists, doing well as women who decide to cover themselves and yet be public about their writing. And the name Naima B. Robert came to me like instantly. It was almost like a divine whisper into my ear to go in this direction. I quickly got onto my computer. I typed up her name, went to her Facebook page. And like destiny often writes itself, there was a webinar or a masterclass that she was offering. It was called Be the Hero. It was a little strange. I was, again, a little bit, what does that mean, be the hero? I didn't even know how to be the woman I was, but I will get to that later. So be the hero. Interesting. I was into that phase of my life now. I had turned 40 and I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to move forward. I wanted to not be stuck in the mental health issue state that had enveloped me for so long. Depression, anxiety, postpartum depression, all those things that were weighing me down. After I turned 40, I thought to myself, there has got to be more. There's this burning in me to do something, to be something, to write something. And I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I have it in me. But the words "be the hero," it was just so beautifully put. Three words, and it spoke volumes for me. So sure enough, I signed up for that webinar. And she went through the words and she was speaking and she spoke about everything, and everything she spoke, I remember it was like arrows to my heart, one after the other, after the other, after the other, penetrating my heart and my soul with these thoughts of dreams about getting the story about accepting and embracing your imperfections, about reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your space in the world. And I thought, is this sister really making me dream? I have been raising 6 children for the past 15, 16 years. Was I really at that point in my life where I could be a hero? Because I thought heroes are these courageous, brave women who stand confidently and stand up to the world and say, this is who I am. But not me, not a woman who was just a few years after the birth of her 6th child, riddled with so much anxiety that she could literally hear screams in the back of her head, who would not know how to make a decision between eating this or that, a woman who would not step outside the house because she was afraid of what people think about her and what people would say about her and how she would be. And so she just hid. I hid for years, perhaps even decades. Could I really be a hero? I mean, I want to be. And there she was telling me that I could be. Sure enough, she was offering the Be the Hero program. And I signed up for it because I felt like I just couldn't say no. It was the right step to take. So as I often confer on important decisions, I called up my husband, who was also my best friend, and I said to him, I have to do this. I'm going to sign up for this program because it's just what she's saying makes sense to me. So I did. And in those programs and in the coaching that I've been with her, she has always said, it's not about that dream that you want, about that degree that you want, about the book that you want to write, about being published, about that story that you want to tell. It's not about what you want, that dream that you're trying to attain, the win you want to reach. It's the journey. It's the woman you become along the way. I wondered if that woman was worth meeting, becoming. I wasn't sure if I was ever happy with who she was. But nevertheless, I wanted to reach the dream. The part about her saying the woman you're becoming along the way, kind of was skeptical about that one. But alhamdulillah, I had trusted her so far in being with me, my coach, my mentor, in becoming this hero of my own story. So I continued with her. And sure enough, 2020 quarantine came about. And at that time, I had transferred from our program from being the hero into showing up. And as poetically as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has writes our stories, it was so fitting. So I showed up. I was trying to show up for my dreams. And in that program, and between the two of them, there was a moment, and she'll remember this, and we've talked about this. Anyone who knows me, who's been following my writing, who's met me through the programs knows that I talk about this, is that one day I found myself at a coffee shop by my house, the one I drove past for years. And I thought, just one day I want to go in, sit at the coffee shop like other people do, open up my laptop and write like writers do. I want to be that woman. I want to be able to be careless and carefree and not have to go places or be someone. I just wanted to sit at that coffee shop with my coffee in hand and type my story out. And so I found myself one day finally finding that courage, that bravery to just do that thing I wanted to do. I drove up, went inside. I had my laptop with me, went inside there too with it, opened it up, and broke down in tears. This is what it was feeling like to be a hero, to claim my story, to claim my voice, to claim that little bit of power that I didn't know existed, and saying, you get to do it. You get to be her. I wrote that a piece out. I sent it to Naima. She read it. I shared it on my social media. I posted it for my sisters who are with me in the program. And I cried again because they understood how important it was for me. They understood how much it took for me to let go of my fear and to show up. In that show up program, as the 2020 lockdown came in, again, that sentence, the woman you become along the way, resided at the back of my mind in whatever I did. And then I'm thinking, no, I don't know about writing a book. People say it, some people have mentioned it to me, you should. I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I'm good enough, if anyone will read it. So all those fears came back to me. But while I was sitting there and getting a little bit more hold in my life, I remember when the lockdown came in, and I've written this in my book, in Breathe, about how I stood there. And for a minute, I thought, do I go back to that play of being in fear all the time, that place of fear and worry and anxiety and stress and worried about what's to come, the challenges of being in quarantine and lockdown, not knowing what's going to happen in the world. We were all there. We saw the footage of the drone cameras showing deserted, empty streets of New York City with no one there, flashing lights at the signals that said green or red, that usually means go or stop, but there is nothing to flow. images of hospitals having makeshift tents outside in their parking lots. They were supposed to be for morgues and freezer trucks lined for miles outside. And we're watching these images unfold, people standing in their balconies in Spain and Italy, singing to each other so they may connect and have that human connection. Children being told at school that they don't know when the schools will be opened up. And this is from my story, that when they would open up, coming home with backpacks filled, asking mom what's going to happen. And I'm saying, I don't know. My child breaking down in the back of the car, not knowing what's going to happen to their grandmother, grandfather, because the news at that time was this thing is deadly. For older people, young people might survive. So with all that in mind, I thought, no, I don't want to go back to that negative place again. I've come too far. So I decided to start writing for 30 days straight in my book, Breathe. I started writing every single day. But it's just a collection of writing. And then Naima in one of our coaching calls said, you are going to publish that, aren't you? Because, you wrote that, you have a book on you. I published my book. These are just like my reflections. These are just my poetry. It's like, I don't even know if that's good enough. Who's going to want to read it? And sure enough, as she often does, she inspired me to dream a little bit more. And in a hero story, you'll see that there's always that person, a mentor, a coach. Like I call her like the old person who lives on the top of the hill, who's there for the guidance and the wisdom, and the hero has to trek and meet her. And then she kind of gives these words and you kind of like feel like you see the light. And so when she said that, I'm like, oh, here she is again, making me dream, making me want something better for myself. Sure enough, I discussed it with my family. Obviously, it was going to be an investment of time and effort and money to go ahead and proceed with getting this book out. Here was another woman I was becoming again. Imagine myself months ago who would not even want to go into a coffee shop to buy a coffee for herself and sit there and drink, was now talking about investing in an editor in publishing her book that she had written. It had nothing else but my words in it, meaning I was giving myself the ability to take a chance on something that was just me. But when I went with that, fear set in again. The fear of rejection, the fear of no one wanting to read what I wrote, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of people will know that I'm not good. I've always known I'm not good. Now people are going to know that I'm not good. They're going to buy a book and they're going to be like, oh, she sucks. So all of these fears started piling on. And even though my editor got back to me and wrote an email and let me know all the notes, I never opened that email. It was months before I opened that email. When I opened that email up, eventually, months later, when my husband said, hey, we were going ahead with this story and this book, and you haven't even done anything with it, what are we doing with it? With the conversation we had back and forth, I said, fine, finally, I'll open the email. I opened the email and she wasn't throwing up on it. She wasn't saying all these negative words. She wasn't saying that, not, maybe not. She said, okay, let's go. You have a little minor edits as we always, do, but, we should proceed with this book. And the fear of success came to me. Am I good enough? Will I really be good enough? What will I do? Like, I've never really taken a chance. So when I take a chance and succeed, will I recognize this woman? Because I'm used to being negative with her. I'm used to her thinking she's not good enough. She never will do anything with her life. And she will just, this is how it's going to be. But I realized with fear, there is also courage. With rejection, there's also perseverance. And the fear of being called a phony and all of those things were just me telling myself, stay safe. Don't go out there. Don't go on that journey. You don't know who's going to be there. Fear set in again, and I didn't take any action. A couple months passed again until Naima and my editor, Hen, they had contacted me and they said, what's going on? What's going on with your book? I hope you're going with it. I didn't have it in me to tell them that I had already given up before I started. Sure enough, one or 2 days after the coaching and Naima, my husband asked me and he said, what about that dream of seeing your book, your name on a book? That thing that you wanted all your life. You said, all I want is to have my name on a book sitting on someone's table and knowing that a part of me is going to be out there. What about that dream you were telling me about? And so after a lot of encouragement and support from the people around me who were believing in me, even though I wasn't believing in myself, I went ahead and I decided to self-publish my book. When I self-published this book, it was January 2021, it came out. And there I held it in my hand and said, oh my God, this is my book. This is my book. I finally have my book. I cried tears of joy, but something was missing inside of me. I didn't want anyone else to know, because I'm like, yeah, it's the happiest thing ever in the world. This is my dream come true. You know, I've been waiting for this for 32 years of my life. I'm finally here. I've finally arrived. And, but there was still something missing. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to tell anyone what it was, but there was something missing. Sure enough, the book got into the bestseller list and I was showing a lot of, you know, people were reacting to it. People were reaching out to me and saying that, you know, it touched them. They felt something connection with that book. And I didn't know, I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand the success. I didn't understand or believe the words coming out. What I realized now is that it wasn't about the book. It wasn't about this published piece of thing. It was because the book gave me the passport, the visa to allow me into a territory where I was now on a quest of self-discovery. We have to sometimes give ourselves the permission. We have to give ourselves the allowance to proceed away from the commonplace that we know and we are comforted by, what Naima likes to call the comfort zone. What I've learned from her about the comfort zone. And she used to say, you're at the edge. You're at the edge of that comfort zone where that fear is coming in, where you're like going to that other side. You're now leaving behind your home. And I imagine and picture it to be like I'm leaving my home with a suitcase and the home is there with my comfortable bed and my blanket and my clothes and everything that feels nice and familiar is there. But I'm going on a journey now. What I realized when people would contact me or I would be contacted for podcast interviews or the interviews and the reviews and the opportunities, alhamdulillah, that I have gotten in the past year, is that I would say, oh, it's because they like the book. And alhamdulillah, many of them did resonate with the book. And alhamdulillah, I spoke to many people and their experiences living through the COVID era. What was showing up was me. I was the one showing up at those interviews. I was the one having those discussions. I was the one who was in that opportunity to sit opposite of great people and be talked to, be spoken with. I was putting myself out there and my name out there, and I was showing up. Amid the fear, amid the rubbing hands, amid the sweats, and I don't want to do this, I want to be safe and covered, was me showing up every single time. It was the woman I was becoming along the way. And I discovered something. I used to think that the woman you become along the way is the woman that is on the other side of the success, meaning she's not you. That the one who is successful, the one who has published, the one who has written her book, who has fulfilled a dream, who is living a dream, is a woman who is successful, and the woman I am is not. What I never realized was that this is the same woman who gets there, but has to journey to be encompassing all versions of herself. I didn't realize this part of the journey until I started writing my memoir, which funny enough was in the same month as when this book was released in January 2021. I sat there at night after night on my computer, typing out words that just flowed. It flew. They were filled and rich with stories of my past, of my struggles with mental health as a teenager and as a young mother, and then as a woman who was getting to her midlife. It was filled with stories about me feeling stuck in a place and learning and discovering more about myself. It was filled with stories about me accepting my physical state of with my weight issues and what I didn't like about myself, and leaning into my faith to accept those versions of myself. And it just poured out of me to the point that I wrote within 1 week. I had the first draft of my book ready to go, 30,000 words. And I thought, okay, this is good. It just flowed from me. But when I sat with it and I looked it over, and I realized that it was just this word vomit really that came out of me, there was something deeper that was hidden inside that I had not touched yet. And it was ready to immerse. It was beyond that surface level words that were being spilled out. There was something deeper inside. And that version is when that hero comes to that quest, or to that next place in the journey, where they're learning something about themselves. What they didn't know was deep inside, they are now uncovering. It's like opening up a box and seeing this version immerse of themselves. And in that version that immersed myself, I realized that there are much more stories that are deeper inside of me than the surface level ones that I had shared so far. And those deeper stories were the ones where I was the most vulnerable. They're the ones that talked about my failures. Those are the ones that talked about not what was happening to me, but what had happened with me. And I realized, to get to the next point, I was at the point that I had to embrace my imperfections. And I wasn't becoming someone else. I was taking all of that and saying, I accept it. What a writer does when they write their stories is that first they may write for themselves to get out the story that's within them. But then the second part of that journey is writing the story where someone else reads it and says, that could have been me, or that's just like me, or I could have written this story, I could have told this story. And that's the part that turns you in from someone who writes into becoming a writer, because now you are writing with a mission, with an intention. And so that was what was missing with me. My first version was for myself. That was just a splurge of words that was out there. The second version that I worked on, that I began to write again in March, was the story that I wanted to share, the experience I wanted to share, the journey I wanted to take you, the reader, with me, as I am doing right now. And it was in that place that I realized that I'm not hiding or running away from my fears. I'm accepting the fact that public spaces scare me. I'm accepting the fact that this new journey I'm on, where I might be more visible online, or I'm speaking to somebody like I did back in December at the Detroit Women's Leadership Network when I was invited to speak as a keynote speaker there. That all these places that I'm going to and that are scary, and they are okay to be scary, but I'm going to show up anyways. That it's going to be vulnerable as anything to put my life experiences in a book, where I'm going to talk about my relationship with my children and how I've struggled with that, and I have failed at that, and I have had challenges with that, where I discussed that my body, the weight that I enshrouded myself in shrunk me, but yet it was a part of me. I carried it with her. I can't hate those parts of myself. They are what brought me to this point today. And so in doing all those things, I realized that the writing journey, the publishing journey, being an author, is not just about having a name printed on a book. It's about all the parts of you that show up to that interview, all the parts of you that show up on those social media feeds and the lives and all those things. Or not even that, it's the version of you that shows up in the book that the reader reads. They connect with you because a human wrote that book. It's not these words that were just spat out by a computer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us humans and gave us all these emotions like fear and sadness and anger and love and hate and all those words. But he also gave us the means to harness that and then write it in the direction that we choose to write it. Now, he has advised us to say and showed us that this is the right way and this is not the right way, and where this leads us and where that leads us. And in the same way, we are in this quest because we are not just writers, we are Muslimah writers. That means we are writing with intention, we are writing with purpose, that there is something there. We believe in accountability, we believe in the book of deeds. As writers, we are writing this book, and this book is what can be our book of deeds. It shows us that everything has an accountability, every word has a weight to it. And so it wasn't just about writing a book and getting it out there. It was about writing a book and making that connection. I remember yesterday at the summit itself, I think I was listening to Lauren Booth's live, and she was talking about how this purpose, this intention, and how it's there, that we have another goal there. We have a further place to go. And so when I sit with this idea of the woman I become along the way, I realize that the way is still far. The way I became when I was writing this book is a woman I realized that was worth discovering, that was worth learning more about. Because with all the things that I have hidden about myself, or I have shunned away and thought, I'm not supposed to be like this, I'm supposed to be like that, that is denying who I am as a person. And that denies me and my creativity as a writer. So once I get that splurge of words out and we get into the depth of the words, is where the real story begins. Yes, you may not have the best book, and it may not be the book that sells the best. I mean, it's your story, it's your words. Thousands of people might have written about the quarantine. Thousands of people might have written about their mental health issues or their struggle with postpartum depression, but nobody has said it in your voice. Nobody has said it with your background, with your journey. Nobody has said it like you. There will be challenges, but nothing in life is free, not even Jannah. And so the challenges that you are able to bring yourself to accept, and the ones you are able to face, regardless of what happens after. What happens after is all written for you anyways, but the challenge of you showing up shows your willingness to move forward. And that is what I realized about myself. All those years that I stood back, and there was this burning in my heart to do something better, to be something better, to show up, to be a hero, to do all those wonderful things, was me staying safe at home and not opening the door to step outside and see the journey that was waiting for me to have. And it was my journey. No one can take it from me. It belongs to me. It's part of my destiny. It's part of my quest. But I wasn't willing to take that step. When we meet as writers and we support each other and we listen to each other, it is important not only to be critical and be honest with each other, but it's also important to realize that we are each together, and where our journeys and our stories are unique to us, and supporting each other in that helps us to grow better. And so I'm just going to finish up here by saying, by reading a little thing that I had written, and I was hoping to share that with you. I don't know if I kind of went on, but I think I did. But anyhow, that's what happens when you go a little impromptu. So I just wanted to read something with you, if you allow me to. And this is a poem I written. It's called "If You Love," a memoir. If you love me, set me free. Let me go on this journey of self-discovery. I promise I'll love you more than I did before. There is so much more we have in store. Let me tell you what happened a long time ago. A woman fell in love and let herself go. She made her love the world and more. She closed herself in and locked the door. She was fine with that, a decision she made, loyal to her love and never betrayed. Though love had flourished, they grew a void, a bitterness that harnessed that she tried to avoid. But there it was, simmering on low even heat, that faint voice whispering, what about me? She gave herself to others, year after year, being their shield while drowning in fears. She built a fort to bury herself in, with walls of fat held tight with skin. Put her spirit to bed and let it fall asleep, let a world of darkness pull her in deep. Her love would wonder, how can a woman be this way? But no care for appearance, no, not seen her for days. But the love was unaware that she was at war. The darkness she fed now snarled and roared. A monster was made, a cynical beast with venomous doubts and belittling teeth. Claws of anger and fists of hate left her tired in an irritable state. Hands clasped together, she called sadness and fear. She surrendered herself with words she'd hear. She was no good, nothing, not worthy enough. The beast of her mind made it just too tough. Though her love saw her for the flower she was, her mind saw weeds that smelled of dust. She wondered why he ever loved her so much, be happy with her and reach for her touch. His love was real and he believed in her deep, saw her sadness, but not the monster that creeped. His wish and hope was that one day she'd see that she was the earth and he was the tree. He flourished only if she stood strong and wide, be the assuring shore to his strong high tides. She wanted that too, but just a little bit more, to slay the dark beast and step out of the door. So one day she did just that, but it wasn't all dead, ran when it was weakened and escaped instead. The monster still lives, but seems crippled at least, lurks in the shadows, but no longer a beast. That woman was awakened from a slumber of too long. She hurried in her steps and her persistence was strong. She had too much time to cover a fleeting clock, ships in searching waters not ready to dock. But it's not just the excitement that rushes her along, it's the anticipation of a monster coming back strong. What is she to tell the world about the enemy within, that the battles she fights are inside of her skin? Because you love me, let me go. Let me plant myself and watch me grow. You love me through seasons bright and dark. Now let go of my hand as I begin to walk. I see a woman distantly waiting for me. Let me sit for her a while and talk to her, please. We'll catch up on who we were and what we'll be, for the story of the battled woman is the story of me. Jazakallah khairan so much for allowing me to be here. And I hope that you learned something. And once again,
thank you so much, Tumkeen.
You're welcome. Alhamdulillah, thank you for calling me here, inviting me.
I hope you can hear me, inshallah.
Yes, I can hear you. I upload my
video the audience
just so that it might be easier.
Yeah, our connection isn't great, so I just want to thank the audience for their attention. Guys, please search up Tumkeen on Facebook and Instagram. Buy her book, use her list to get news about one, and share this with other people. Tumkeen, I've always found your story very, very inspirational for so many reasons. I mean, we could do a deep
Yes, I think Naima has frozen out. Okay, now we're back.
But my bandwidth is not having it. So we inshallah, and we'll see you guys in the next session where we're going to be talking about building a platform. See you in the next session, inshallah. And make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your comments in the comment section. We want to hear what your biggest takeaway from this session. Tumkeen, we love you for the sake of Allah and we wish you the best. See you in the next session, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Time is over. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah, thank you. That was.
It says live.
I'm going to end the webinar.
Yeah.
I'm going to end it because I don't know what the lag.